listed in the staff report that the project is consistent with. I just pulled a couple out that seemed fairly important. And just kind of going through these really quickly. Discouraging strip commercial in favor of clustered commercial and mixed-use development along transit corridors. This is a project to a T. Encourage the assembly of small parcels along transit corridors to achieve pedestrian-oriented development compatible with neighborhoods. That's this project. They basically have assembled 21 small parcels, which is no small feat. Where possible, site buildings at the street frontage and place parking areas away from street corners to the rear buildings. So that's happening in this case. All the parking is either underground or hidden from the street. On major corridors, encourage mixed-use development, especially projects with priority for commercial uses. Require that site and building design facilitate pedestrian activity. That's certainly implemented into this project. Encourage neighborhood shopping and nodes of commercial development that serve residential areas and have adequate transit, pedestrian, and bike. So certainly consistent with all of these general plan policies. The project site is also within the Ocean Street area plan, and which encourages this type of development. The Ocean Street plan includes policy guidance and design standards to create a welcoming and high quality community character along Ocean Street. For the plan area north of Water Street, where this project is, the vision calls for hotels, motels, restaurants, and other visitor services, as well as mixed use buildings with retail stores and services that benefit visitors and residents alike. The project site is identified as one of 3 catalyst sites in the Ocean Street plan. And those catalyst sites basically, they provide descriptions in the Ocean Area Plan that give examples of what is possible for those locations. It's not binding, but certainly in this case, in terms of the description that's provided in the Ocean Street plan, it's a mixed-use building facing Ocean Street with residential above retail. Podium design can provide tuck-under parking, townhomes fronting on May. So it's meeting all the requirements and ideas that were involved in terms of those catalyst descriptions for the catalyst sites. Again, looking at some of the Ocean Street area plan goals and policies, I provided quite a few in the staff report, but here are a few other ones here. Well-designed buildings that create a unique character for Ocean Street, encourage pedestrian-oriented development, encourage assembly of small parcels, require new development on Ocean Street to incorporate transitions to smaller scale, the adjacent residential neighborhood, etc. So the project site is located in the CC Community Commercial Zone District. At least that was the zoning at the time that it was locked in with SB 330. So the purpose of the Community Commercial District, as states in our code, is to provide locations throughout the community for a variety of commercial and service uses for residents of the city and the region, which promotes policies of the general plan to encourage a harmonious mixture of a wide variety of commercial and residential activities, including limited industrial. So also mention that in the CC zoning, the FDUs that are involved, and then also the mixed use, both require a special use permit and design permit, which are part of this application. With the exception of height, rear setback, and private open space, the CC zone district requirements are all being met. And this table kind of summarizes the project's compliance with those district development standards, as well as the Ocean Street area plan standards. So in terms of entitlements that are involved with this project, we have a non-residential demolition authorization permit, residential as well, both of those for the demolition of the existing commercial and residential buildings. Heritage tree removal permit to remove 16 heritage trees, a minor land division, basically involving the merging of the 21 lots and then subdividing them into three buildings into 3 condominium lots. Design permit for new construction, special use permit, as I had just mentioned, and then density bonus requests to exceed density and the related waivers and incentives and concessions that I'll get to later. So in terms of the residential and non-residential, there are 4 commercial structures proposed for demolition, 12 residential. The purpose of the residential and non-residential demolition authorization permits is to evaluate requests for demolition of structures 50 years of age or older, to ensure that those which may have historic value are not demolished, and for residential structures to ensure that relocation assistance and replacement housing is provided as required. So a historic evaluation report of the properties within the scope of the project was prepared and also was peer reviewed by a separate historic consultant. Each property was documented on its own set of DPR forms, with none of the structures listed on the California Register of Historic Resources, the National Register, or on the City of Santa Cruz Historic Building Survey. That being said, one single family structure at 130 Hubbard, through the course of the review, appears to be eligible for listing on the city's historic building survey, though it's not listed. The home was constructed in 1878, and although it has been altered over the years, it appears to meet some of the criteria for the local listing for inclusion on our survey. So while the structure is not currently listed on the survey, identification of eligibility triggers additional analysis per CEQA, and specifically the preparation of environmental impact report, which was prepared for this project. In regards to replacement housing, it requires that new housing developments not reduce the total number of existing dwellings and not reduce the number of dwellings housing lower income persons. So per the law, housing projects must create at least as many housing units as will be demolished, and projects must also replace units rented by lower income households with units affordable to lower income tenants, and must provide relocation and other benefits to lower income tenants who are displaced by the new construction. So for the subject development, the applicants are meeting the requirements of replacing the equivalent number of residential units, including the equivalent number of bedrooms and income levels. The requirement to replace the protected units at a 1-to-1 ratio are being met with the new development, along with the right of first refusal to return to a newly constructed unit for those tenants that are currently at the site. So in accordance with the state law, a relocation plan has been prepared by the developer describing the benefits and services available to tenants at the project site. The relocation plan was reviewed by our city attorney for consistency with state law. And it's consistent with state law and presents relocation assistance provisions to the low-income households and to the tenants that are currently at the site. So as I had mentioned, there's a boundary adjustment and minor land division where we have 21 parcels that are going to be merged, totaling 4.15 acres. In addition, a minor land division is proposed whereby each of the 3 proposed buildings would be on a separate condo lot, and the total number of lots will be essentially 4, the 3 condo lots, and then the common lot. So the project will consist of one 5-story building with a basement, which, this is building A here that faces onto Ocean Street with the commercial retail facing Ocean Street, and 2 3-story buildings, which are buildings B and C, which face onto May Avenue. So the 3 buildings.
I'm sorry, can you hold on really quick? Whoever's making that noise, you need to not. Okay, if you can't control yourself, you need to step outside. Okay? Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, so the 3 buildings will include a total of 389 dwelling units, approximately 9,570 square feet of retail space, and a total of 13,500 square feet of building residential amenities. So building A will be 5 levels above grade and 1 level below grade for underground parking. The structure will have below grade parking and a total of 286 dwelling units. There are ramps for the garage access, which will be located on Ocean Street. There's 2, one being with the first floor, including additional parking and lobby leasing and the square footage and retail. Those will all be accessed via the main entrance, kind of midway through the project. And then there's also at the very southern part of Ocean of the project, that there's a ramp that will access the underground parking. So building B will be 3 stories at grade and include 55 residential units. It has about 2,600 square feet of lobby, mail, and amenity space, storage area, and covered parking. And the second and third levels will consist of studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 4-bedroom units. And then building C is a 3-story at grade and includes a total of 48 dwelling units consisting of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom. And this is a view looking at from the corner of Hubbard and May. So in terms of materials, the buildings kind of have a general contemporary design, incorporating a variety of exterior finishes, wood paneling, siding, corrugated metal, cement plaster, fiber cement, vertical siding, cast in place concrete, also metal guardrails and mesh infill and aluminum storefront windows in a classic bronze, and vinyl windows in bronze and almond color. So kind of this gives you a good feel of some of the materials being used, both on the Ocean Street frontage as well as facing toward the residential. So although AB 2097 would exempt the project from provision of any parking requirements, the applicant has elected to supply 415 auto parking spaces, 382 residential, 33 commercial. Of those residential parking spaces, 50 would be for electric vehicles with charging stations. Bike parking would include 486 spaces for the residential units and 8 for the commercial uses, for a total of 494 bike parking spaces. As I was alluding to earlier, there's 3 separate vehicular access points to the site. One driveway would be here along May, and this basically would access these parking areas for buildings B and C. It does not connect through to building A, so you can't drive through the project from Ocean to May. So this is the only access for the May parking. And then the other, as I had mentioned, there's a ramp that goes down to the underground parking, which is accessed here at the southern portion. And then there's this kind of main entry for commercial, and then that accesses the parking at grade level. So the Ocean Street area plan mandates the implementation of traffic calming for neighborhood streets within the plan area when significant new development occurs. So May Avenue, being a neighboring street located within the plan and adjacent to the project site, requires traffic calming measures to reduce traffic flow and enhance safety and accessibility for pedestrians and bikes. Based on the city's traffic calming toolkit, and then there's also a transportation plan that was prepared for the project specifically. There were several traffic calming measures that were recommended for May Avenue. Public Works staff has reviewed that transportation plan and is supportive of the recommendations, with the exception of the mini traffic circle. Staff is recommending doing curb extensions with room for planting instead of the traffic circle. It hasn't been determined whether or not that intersection can fit what they're proposing in terms of that mini traffic circle. But these are some of the traffic calming measures that are going to be implemented as part of the project along May Avenue. Other offsite improvements, kind of somewhat typical for larger projects. We have new 12 to 13 foot sidewalks along the entire frontage of Ocean Street with landscaping, 6-foot sidewalk along May and Hubbard. There are 2 ADA compliant ramps that are involved as part of the project, both at Hubbard and May and Hubbard and Ocean. And then all utilities will be undergrounded. There are 19 light standards along both May and Ocean, as well as along Hubbard. And then 13 street trees, new street trees will be included as well. An arborist report inventoried the trees in the project area, including a summary of the health and structural condition. There's 37 trees total on the site. Of the 37 trees, 18 qualify as heritage trees. Being in direct conflict with the project, 35 trees are proposed to be removed, 16 of which are the heritage trees. 2 trees to be retained are along the street, along Ocean Street. The city urban forester has reviewed the arborist report and agrees with the recommendations. And the landscape plan proposes a total of 98 new trees to be planted throughout the site, which far exceeds the tree replacement requirements. Other new landscaping include shrubs, grasses, ground covers, and perennials. And then there's quite a few outdoor amenities, including a pool and spa, outdoor cooking areas, barbecues, raised bar, seating, dining tables and chairs and benches that are located throughout the site. So the applicant has provided plans for a base project that meets all of the CC zoning district development standards, including height, setbacks, open space, et cetera. And it was determined that the base density is 273 units. So pursuant to state density bonus law, the development is seeking a 42.5% density bonus, which allows the project to achieve 116 bonus market rate units in exchange for providing 36 very low income affordable units for a total of 389 units. So in addition to the state density bonus requirements, the city's inclusionary ordinance requires 20% of the base units to be affordable to low income households or lower, totaling 54 affordable units as part of the whole project. So with the 18 units at the low income level and 36 at the very low income level, the project is fulfilling the affordable housing requirements per the city's inclusionary ordinance and the state density bonus. So as part of state density bonus, there are certain concessions and waivers that are allowed as part of that. So in addition to allowing the more market rate units to offset the cost of providing affordable units, the law also provides a variety of tools the applicant can utilize to make projects physically or more economically feasible. So including incentives and concessions that allow for modifications of development standards if those standards result in an actual and identifiable cost reduction to the project. And then for waivers, that allows for modifications of development standards if the standards physically preclude construction of the density bonus project. So the city must grant these concessions and waivers unless they violate state or federal law, create a specific adverse impact on health and safety or the physical environment that cannot be mitigated or adversely impact historic resources. So there's no evidence that the concession waivers requested should not be granted as required by state law. Taking a look at what's being requested, there's an incentive concession for private open space. And this is specific to non-FDUs. So there's a reduction being requested from 17,700 square feet to 5,025. In terms of waivers, there's waivers to height, which is mainly just for the building A, which is the 5-story building, to go up to 62 feet. The second waiver is for floor area ratio. General plan limits it to 1.75, and they're proposing 2.49. For waiver 3, it's the setback that basically is along May Avenue. It would normally require a 20-foot setback, and they're proposing an 11-foot 4-inch and a 12-foot 8-inch for building B and then building C. So a reduction in setback along May, and then there's also requesting a reduction in storage for FDUs from 42,400 cubic feet to 27,800. So after completing the initial study, the city determined that an EIR should be prepared to assess the potential environmental impacts of the project. Kimley Horn was retained by the city to prepare the EIR with cooperation and oversight by the city's contract environmental consultant, Dudek. 3 potentially significant impacts were identified, and those are listed here. One being the historic resources involving 130 Hubbard, the other being cultural resources, and then also hazardous materials. So with these 3 potentially significant impacts that have been identified, only CUL 1 regarding the historic resources cannot be mitigated to a less than significant level. and is therefore an unavoidable impact. So the project ER found the historic resource impact to be potentially significant, and while mitigation measures have been identified, the impact cannot be reduced to a less than significant level. Project development would cause a substantial adverse change in the significance of a historical resource due to the demolition of the house, and the project would result in the demolition of that one existing structure that is considered a historical resource under CEQA, as it is potentially eligible for listing in the city's historic building survey. CEQA guidelines require that an ER describe and evaluate a reasonable range of potentially feasible alternatives to the project that could attain most of the basic objectives of a proposed project while substantially lessening at least one significant effect of the proposed project. Of the alternatives considered, alternative one basically was preservation of the house, keeping it in place and retaining it, and then basically redesigning the project around the building. It was estimated that would be a loss of about 12 units for that location. Alternative two was relocating the house to a new site, but of course that would require not only picking up the house and moving it, but also having a suitable site for it, and also considering the historic setting for the house as well. So the applicants don't have a site available at this time. And then alternative three was a reduced size project where we're reducing the size of the project by 116 less units, but maintaining the house. So of the alternatives considered, in the EIR, it indicated that alternative one would best achieve the project objectives while also reducing the severity of identified significant impacts, and therefore is considered the environmental superior alternative of the alternatives reviewed. In order to approve a project with unavoidable significant impacts as identified by the EIR, a statement of overriding considerations must be prepared explaining why the city is willing to accept each significant impact. With no feasible alternatives to the project that would fully mitigate or substantially lessen the impacts and successfully meet all of the stated project objectives, staff is recommending the Planning Commission adopt the resolution adopting the finding of fact, the mitigation monitoring plan, and the statement of overriding considerations to approve the project as it's proposed. So with that being said, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission certify the final environmental impact report, adopting the findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations, and approve the residential and non-residential demo permits, heritage tree removal, minor land division, design permit, special use permit, and density bonus request based on the findings listed in your staff report and the attached conditions of approval that were part of that as well. And I'm available for any questions. Bill Weissman with Kinley Horn is here, who prepared the EAR, is here for any questions. And then Matt Starkey, Public Works Traffic, is available for any questions as well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Questions from commissioners to staff? I just had a quick question about the emblem in the top right. Is that our rebranded City of Santa Cruz emblem?
Apparently it is, yeah.
Pretty cool. Okay, wonderful. Okay, seeing no questions, we are going to invite the applicant up to speak and address anything they would like to address. Is there anybody from the applicant team here tonight? Wonderful. Come on up.
I believe the applicant does have a presentation, and then as we discussed, there are two groups that requested 5 minutes.
Correct.
That will follow them. So let me just get...
Welcome, sir. Great, thank you. Is this on? Great, it is.
Yes, it is.
And Ryan, are you?
I'm bringing it up for you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I can move to speak into. Thanks.
Thank you.
And as I learned the logistics here, do I control the presentation with this, or are you doing it?
Tell me when to.
I'll just
tell me when to
okay.
switch.
All right, great. All right. Well, thanks everyone. I appreciate the Planning Commission hearing our project here tonight. My name is Brian Pianca with High Street Residential. We are the project applicant and excited to be working on this signature project for Santa Cruz. Moving forward. So here tonight, obviously myself with High Street, we also have our architect in attendance, BDE, who's going to be presenting after me, Creo Design, the landscape architect, and BKF, the civil engineer. As Ryan mentioned, this is the site area itself. It expands from Ocean Street to May and involves most of the block between Water and Hubbard, although it does not go to the Water extreme. It's a large site, 4.1 acres. What you'll notice on the screen there is we highlighted a couple parcels there, one in yellow, one in blue. The one in yellow, this site has taken a little bit of time to come together. As Ryan mentioned, there's 21 parcels. The one in yellow, there's originally an application that was submitted without the one in yellow or blue. The one in yellow was added prior to our involvement, and then after we got involved, we added the parcel in blue, which is the 902 Ocean parcel that currently houses Togos. Next slide. So here's a picture of the existing conditions on site. I think you've seen, I think everyone's pretty familiar with the site. It's in a pretty prominent location, kind of a mix of older residences and some now vacant commercial buildings. So in terms of our involvement in the project, we got involved in the project in 2022, as Ryan mentioned. The original application for the project came in from the current property owner back in 2018. That project didn't move forward for a variety of reasons, one of which was at the time the city did not have FDUs as of yet. So we were able to move it forward once FDUs were created. So, we've been working on the project for a few years now, a couple of years now. And if all goes well here, we expect to be able to start construction next spring. It'll be about a 2.5-year build. In terms of our community outreach over that time, we originally hosted a hybrid community meeting that was in person and in Zoom back in early 23, a couple of years ago. And then we recently had some in-person meetings with the Grand Park neighbors. We've had conversations with Mary Ann's, the Grand Park neighbors again, Housing Santa Cruz, Chamber of Commerce, and the Santa Cruz Business Council. In terms of some of the updates from the original proposal that was put forward back in 2018, as I mentioned before, there was a lot of feedback that the community provided on that original application, so we were able to build off that feedback in terms of developing our design. So, the unit count from the prior proposal is very similar, but we were able to move from what was only 2% of the units that were larger than studios or one bedrooms to 35% of those units. So we added roughly 120 units of family-sized units. We're also able to do so without mechanical parking, which the neighborhood had expressed some concerns about. And we also moved significant vehicular access off of May, whereas the prior design had 418 stalls that accessed the site from May. Our project only has 48 stalls that access the site from May. Consistent with the Ocean Street plan, we were also able to bring down the height of the building on May. So we dropped it from what was previously 3.5 stories down to 3. But in exchange for that, we pushed more of the height onto Ocean, which is a much wider street, 100 feet across, which also is something that's addressed in the Ocean Street design standards as well. And then one of the biggest changes that we made was a mid-block paseo. As Ryan mentioned, the project isn't currently subject to the objective design standards, but this is one of the design standards that planning staff asked us to try to comply with. And it was also consistent with some of the feedback that the neighborhood groups had provided previously. So we created a paseo that we'll walk through in the next slide that helps break down what is a pretty large block and provide some pedestrian connectivity through the site. And then also one of the things we were able to work out for the community is taking the trash service off of May and Ocean and integrating it into the project site so there'd be less disruption from the trash trucks. So here's a site plan that Ryan showed before. I think one thing that I'd like to highlight here is that pedestrian paseo. So that allows residents to walk from May to Ocean and then access the bus stops that are on Ocean. So this is a TOD site, as Ryan mentioned, and there's six bus lines that meet roughly at the intersection of Water and Ocean. So the idea is that people can travel through the site. and get to those transit options sooner. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Nathan Simpson from BDE to walk through the design.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Simpson. I'm a principal at BDE Architecture. I am the design architect on this project. And then with me tonight, I have Joseph Astafanos, who's our project manager and an associate at BDE. This project, as mentioned, that pedestrian paseo was a major incorporation into the project. It includes a porte cochere where you have indoor-outdoor space as it's covered. And the bulk of that paseo has been made pedestrian-friendly. There is a little bit of vehicle and pedestrian integration right at the roundabout, right on Ocean Street. That is also due to the fact that we are bringing in the retail parking into the site and providing a little bit of staging so that way there's less traffic potential onto Ocean Street. And then as mentioned, we do have one vehicle access on the bottom right page that is for residents only. That goes underground. In the previous design, we actually had, they had a basement that covered the entire site. We were able to reduce that, which reduces carbon footprint and all that sort of fun construction and sustainability stuff that people generally care about. And with that, we were able to really integrate a few other items on the street frontage, which was in line with the plans that the city has asked for. Along the frontage, we do have 2 commercial spaces, approximately 9,500 square feet. They are designed to be indoor-outdoor spaces, so they have covered courtyards and awnings in areas where we can do seating. Since this project was started after the pandemic, we really realized that commercial spaces, to make them viable, they need to have a little bit of indoor-outdoor space, so that way there's flexibility in the future. The spaces also have multiple entry doors, so that way if we need to, we can parcel them up into smaller retail spaces, so there's maximum flexibility to keep them tenants in there. And then in the middle of the site, also consistent with the city's request, is having our leasing office right in the middle. That's all the blue that you see in the site. That's also a bike storage area where we can basically have anyone come in. So something really unique about this project is usually the leasing offices are on the street frontage because they're usually active. In this instance, we were able to put it right in the middle, which created it's a level of equality and inclusion amongst all 3 buildings that usually we don't get. Usually this is in the corner of the site. So I think this is a very residential forward building that I think a lot of the residents will be excited to have. And of course, we have the bike integration, and that pedestrian paseo is greatly greened up. We were able to reduce more parking in back, which was around, I think we're around 48 stalls right now. We used to have a lot more parking in there. We reduced it down to create more open space and just have a nice area. Some other amenities the project does have on this floor is a pet spa and surf shop. Since we are up against the ocean, we wanted to provide that. And, you know, people have dogs. If you go up a floor. So on the upper floors of the buildings, you can see the 2 buildings in back, which are 3-story buildings. That's on the top of the page. And then along Ocean, which is the bottom of the page, is our main building, one large building that's been massed down to 3 separate building frontages. This is achieved through that mid-block paseo and porte cochere. And then we also provided a smaller court that breaks down the building a little bit more in the bottom right page. And then as mentioned, keeping everything a little bit more centralized for the residents, you can see more amenity spaces up here on a centralized courtyard. That courtyard is away from the other neighbors, so it shouldn't be as obstructive as it could be for someone if it was right up on May, for instance. And that also has a fitness area and a lounge, plus connections to the other courtyards, which have a mixture of active and passive uses. If you go up a floor, or sorry, next page. The building sections, we wanted to draw attention to this. So on the left of the page is May Street. Those are residential buildings kind of outlined, and you can see sight lines from the ground and from the second floor of those buildings. Our buildings, as mentioned, instead of the 3.5 stories previously, we're now at 3 stories. And with that, we're able to actually keep the 5-story read beyond pretty much out of sight from across the street, which is keeping it a little bit more residential and not overpowering the single-story homes adjacent. And then you can also see that pool deck courtyard on the upper drawing that's centralized and out of sight from everyone. The lower image shows how we've reduced the basement drastically, which is just it's a really good thing for a lot of different reasons. That also shows that mid-block paseo going through there. And then if you go to the next page, these are some of the design precedents that we were looking at for the overall design of the architecture. This includes the Santa Cruz University, obviously. I think that's a major part of the town. And then we are a beach town in this area, so we do have a nice little beach house up front. But then there's also a mixture of projects that you'll see here that are residential. The one in the upper left is actually, I think, down in Palm Beach. And it is showing just how you can scale these buildings down a little bit more and make them a little bit more residential. And then the upper right, just so everyone has references, that's a newer multifamily mixed-use project here in the city. If you go to the next page. So mentioning our material palette a little bit more, we are trying to keep coastal, and we know that along the coast we need to have durable materials that'll hold up. All the materials we're proposing are traditional. They're found in the area. We're using a wood texture. It's a phenolic wood, more than likely, so it will hold up over time without having any major replacements. But that will be a warmer complement to the metal panel that we have, which is corrugated and blue, very similar to a ocean in a way. So we're kind of pulling up the ocean color palettes through that. Then also you see a lot of concrete just along coastlines because it's very durable. So we're using a cast-in-place concrete that would have a board form concrete. And then just to differentiate these materials a little bit, because they're all the same materials but applied very differently amongst the larger and smaller buildings. The building along Ocean, we're looking to make it more urban and contemporary, so it has black window mullions. The roof forms are much more linear and flat, just in a more contemporary style. That keeps it more urban facing towards the retail and the large 100-foot wide Ocean Street. And then in back, because we know there are residential units back there and the homes that are nearby are craftsmen with a lot of material on them, we're looking to do a lot more siding back there, so those buildings are actually minimally plaster. So playing around a little bit with the materials, and then we also know that white window mullions go over better with residential, so that's also making the building in back look a little softer and residential. If you go to the next page. A lot of these renderings I think people have seen already, but we'll go through them really quick. Some of the things mentioned, if you're looking in the upper left image, the building does step down at each corner at the ends of it to help mass it down to the adjacent buildings. This will be one of the first larger buildings to come in, so we want to make sure that we're integrated and contextual with the site versus just being a very large building. In the bottom left, you'll see that central motor loop porte cochere area. That's where retail and residents and commercial tenants can walk through. That has a visual connection all the way through May. And then lower right-hand corner is just looking across the street. Our porte cochere and that motor loop area actually aligns pretty well with the adjacent streets for that visual connection, just strengthening the urban texture. Going to the next page. I promise we're almost done. I know this is the fun part for everyone. This is the back of the site along May. These are the 3-story buildings. The lower left corner, I just want to draw attention to that one. That is the Hubbard corner where we were talking about the historical building. That corner we were putting in more gable roofs and hip roofs, just trying to make it have a little bit of that historical nod to that corner. And then also in the lower right, you can see the other side of the pedestrian paseo, which just connects. And I just want to point out that all these renderings are actually hiding the building beyond, which is pretty much what you saw in the building section. So with that, I think that's it. Thank you.
Is that everybody from your team? Yes? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, at this point, I think we will open the public comment period. So, can I get a sense of how many people wish to speak tonight? You can just put your hands up. Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to have people do is line up to my left, your right, along the wall, and just single file, and you can get in line to speak. Of course, you don't have to, but if you sign in, it helps our team keep more accurate minutes and things like that. So please come up and speak, and each speaker will have 2 minutes. I'm sorry, our 5-minute reservists. Yes, I'm sorry, come on up. We have 2 people that requested extra time. You'll have 5 minutes each. Grant Park neighbors and representative from that group, and then also tenants of 908 Ocean. Is there anybody, are you here from tenants from 908? Okay, wonderful. Okay, Grant Park neighbors, you'll have 5 minutes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Linda Wayers, and I'm here representing the Grant Park Neighbors GPN. In our dialogue back and forth with the project applicant, we are happy to hear that the applicant is willing to meet many of our requested conditions of approval, including the active transportation elements, the traffic calming measures, that they are willing to provide a point of contact, and they are willing to work with GPN to create a cohesive standard for our neighborhood street trees. I remind the Planning Commission that Grant Park years ago was a park without gates, without fencing, and was open without the need to secure the premises. Then in 2018, prior to GPN forming, the park was fenced and had to be locked shut from sunset to sunrise. Since then, the park was fully closed twice due to the unsafe, hazardous condition of the park. The first in 2018 lasted nearly 2 months and was due to needle litter and the hazardous condition in the park. The second lasted about a week and was due to open drug use and homeless camping, whereby the park was deemed unmanageable by city staff without closure. After the 2018 closing of the park, GPN was formed by the residents that live closest to the park, and those members continue as the core membership today. We host regular concerts in the park, sponsor town halls at the Market Street Senior Center, and commit volunteer hours as an Adopt a Park organization with the City of Santa Cruz Parks and Recreation Department. And since 2018, it has been refreshing how much the city and county have done to help the park clean up, function as an inviting open space for the community, and as best as possible, stay safe. Even with their help, we still have a long way to go. This park and the surrounding neighborhood continue to exist somewhere between marginalization and the healthy, safe community we want to live in. This is why we have provided conditions in 2 areas that the Planning Commission should require of the project if it is improved. The first area is in security. This part of Santa Cruz is regularly overwhelmed with users managing their own personal crises, including methadone, drug treatment clients from the Emline County campus, folks that have just been released from the justice system on Ocean Street, and those that are clients of the homeless service facilities on Coral Street. This dynamic user group requires regular monitoring and assistance as necessary to act with civility. We have found that an engaged private security service can provide this regular monitoring, assisting the city's homeless services, police, and emergency services as necessary and appropriate. Assuring there will be some form of neighborhood security for this stretch of ocean is critical, and in the past has proven to be very successful. The second area is addressing the blight. These conditions are aimed at reversing the blight this project site has put upon the local neighborhood for at least a decade, if not longer. It is truly a shame that the city has allowed this part of Santa Cruz to continue in the state for so long. The poor condition of this part of Santa Cruz signals to the general population that it is a place where it is okay to participate in illegal activities, to misuse both private and public spaces, and overall, that there are no consequences for whatever occurs here. The members of GPN assert that by providing the appropriate traffic calming measures, active transportation enhancements, and planning a healthy local urban forest together, we can start to remediate the long years of neglect suffered here. For most that visit Santa Cruz County, the intersection of Ocean and Plymouth is the first stoplight upon arrival. Do you want this neighborhood that greets every visitor to be the doormat that everyone wipes their feet on before entering, or to be a pleasing gateway into the city we all enjoy as our home? Currently, with urban blight and uncivility that has existed on Ocean Street between Plymouth and Water, we are the doormat. Planning Commission, please require the conditions we have detailed so we can clean this area up and create a proud gateway for our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I would remind the public to not cheer or jeer anybody that speaks. We don't want to create an atmosphere of intolerance, right? And we want to welcome all viewpoints. So clapping, jeering, putting people down, putting people up, whatever it is, we're just going to cut that right there, okay? So listen to what people have to say, and they're going to listen to you too, okay? All right, tenants of 908 Ocean, please come on up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carrie Niblett, and we are here to represent the tenants who live on the future site of the 908 Ocean Street project. We all know too well the dire need for affordable housing in our city is experiencing, and we're not here to drag our heels. We had prepared a longer statement for tonight, but our lawyers advised against presenting it. We'd like to instead take this opportunity to show our support for the Grant Park Neighbors Group and urge the commission to consider their conditions for approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, members of the public that wish to speak, could you please line up to my left, your right, along the wall here, and we will take you one at a time at 2 minutes each. Please, come forward, sir. You'll have 2 minutes.
Great, I won't take 2 minutes. Thanks for everything here, and my name is Steve Saffold. I'm just gonna, part of this is just gonna echo what somebody said before me, but you know, this is Ocean Street. It's effectively the gateway in and out of Santa Cruz, and it's been down at the heel for a long time. So I think this is a great project, a great opportunity for Santa Cruz. It's going to replace a block, you know, again, that's been pretty shabby for a long time. Also providing both affordable and market rate housing, both of which are badly needed. And then I think the project itself is very well designed with, you know, ample parking to keep impacts off of the street parking, and you know, great public amenities as well, I think. So that's my thoughts, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you. Good evening. Happy to be here. Thank you all for being here. Very happy to see many of my neighbors here, and it was awesome to see a satellite picture of my house here in council chambers. Honestly, I think a lot of us are excited for this project in a number of ways, so I think that should be said first and foremost. The previous person mentioned that it is the gateway. We have our sister city sign sitting there. It's covered by a chain link fence. There's a lot of things going on there on Ocean. I think some changes are going to be good. Some changes are going to be interesting. Back on community safety, just want to say here publicly, now that the rains are ending, I see a bunch of safety vests back here. I think the neighbors know I'm going to activate the space. I'll be building a skate park out there. If anybody wants to come mix concrete, I'll be there. Just letting y'all know. So it'll be a day, a couple days. It's going to be nice. Maybe put some gardens in there. It sounds like the property we purchased in a year. Might as well do something with it that's actually pretty radical before that happens. And then get to see the facades that we saw built up here. We're going to see some interesting utility work provided. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So anyone want to build, feel free to come join. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Oh, good evening. My name is Leslie Gill, and I'm an apprentice carpenter at a local 646, Santa Cruz, Monterey County. And I would like to urge, I'm sorry, I'm not an orator, I'm a carpenter, so I'm a little nervous. But I would like to urge for the project to be run by a responsible contractor. I've worked on both union and non-union sites. As a technicality, I worked for a non-union company. There are things such as safety. Carpenters are trained, union carpenters are trained at the highest standards of safety. I've worked on the non-union companies, and I've had to call OSHA to come in because it was so dirty. People were getting hurt. There's human trafficking with non-union companies. They will have people come and build and be housed inside the building and not real motels or apartments. And they will be billed for living there while they're building the building. Also, in terms of equality, on the non-union job sites, although I'm a trained professional, I was only allowed to sweep and pick up pee bottles that people had left behind. With union training, we're responsible. This is a book that is our course for just doing the trim work and hanging doors. That much information is what we learn to do the job properly. All I'm asking is that, thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome, sir.
Yes, hi, Maximiliano Chavarria. I'm also a carpenter, but that's what I'm not speaking for. I live at 406 Dakota Avenue, which is a block away. And so my question is, like, 46 spots for electric vehicles? Like, really? Like, one, you have low-income housing. Who's going to afford an electric vehicle? Like, when the battery dies, it's $64,000 to replace. Nobody in low-income housing is going to be able to do that. You have 3 different lots. You have underground with one access to it. What happens when an earthquake hits? Where's the egress? Where's the excess? Like, what happens with that? On top of that, you've got a park, a skate park, totally for it. You got 3 within a mile radius. 3. Do you need another one? And Ocean on a Friday after work? None of those people are getting home on time. Just as your provider, the person doing the job, have they driven Ocean? Have they? I mean, I understand they scoped the land, but do they live here? Have they experienced that? Have they been here for the Beta Brick or not the Brick? The Wharf to Wharf? Have they been here for the festivals? Have they been here for that? Nobody's getting into those complexes on a timely manner. All those people are going to be coming from over the hill. They're not going to live here. They're not going to work here. I drive back and forth, Watsonville to wherever I need to be. You guys live here, but you work here. They're not going to live here, or they're going to live here, but they ain't going to work here. So it's the bus lane on the freeway. It's a bus lane. It's not for cars.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Hi, yeah, thank you for everyone for contributing. I'm just someone who's lived in Santa Cruz forever. I lived on May Avenue for 5 years or so, just familiar with the area. It's nice to see some rejuvenation of the neighborhood. It is, although it does seem like a large project, I am kind of curious about, I've always thought Ocean Street should be a place where tourists could stop off and maybe spend some money. I feel like a lot of tourists come into town, they don't spend any money, they go back. So I didn't really get a good sense of how someone who's leaving Santa Cruz might stop in there and use the retail space. I feel like that would be kind of nice for, for people, for locals to actually be able to make money in those retail spaces and not just have it be, someplace that people just drive by or someplace where people rent and pay rent to someone from another place. But I am in support of the project and improving the situation there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Eli Robles, Carpenters Local 646. Today I want to highlight the critical role that labor standards and apprenticeship play in the development of our commercial and residential projects. First and foremost, labor standards ensure that workers are treated fairly, work in safe conditions, and receive fair wages. These standards are the backbone of a just and equitable workplace, fostering a culture of respect and dignity. They help prevent exploitation and ensure that every worker's rights are protected. leading to higher job satisfaction and productivity. Equally important are apprenticeships. These programs provide invaluable hands-on experience and training for the next generation of skilled workers. Apprenticeship bridges the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application, ensuring that our workforce is well prepared to meet the demands of modern construction. They are also offered a pathway to stable and well-paying careers, contributing to the economic growth and stability. In conclusion, by upholding strong labor standards and investing in apprenticeships, we not only build better structures, but also stronger communities. Let's continue to prioritize these essential elements in all our development projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Hi there, John Pitlack, Carpenters Local 405. I think I would be fully in support of a project like this, provided it was with a responsible contractor. More or less piggybacking on what you just heard there, we want to see, apprentices working. We want to see journeymen working. We want people making decent money, people getting health care, getting treated the way you would want your workers to be treated. Hopefully the way you guys all feel you should be treated as well. So that's a big thing for us. And another one that I think that most people don't notice that are in, say, your seats and even the public. This is the kind of project where you'll drive by 50 years from now and be like, they did that. And it's something that, it's a big thing of pride. It's pretty cool. So something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. My name is Makai, longtime resident. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thought the presentation was very well done. I also am supportive of this project. I mean, I've lived in Santa Cruz most of my life. I've seen this site pretty underutilized throughout the years. So just seeing some vibrancy, as a lot of folks have been saying about the revitalization of this area as you enter our city. I'm actually extremely excited to see something like this. I also wanted to point out the parking aspect. I mean, I try and keep up with some of the other projects going on in Santa Cruz at the moment. As you guys all know what's going on with the downtown expansion plan, but seeing over 400 proposed parking spaces isn't something that I've seen in any of the other plans. Also the aspect of adding units with 4 bedrooms, also don't see that too often. And again, I think the amount of units with the proposed affordability aspect is also, in my mind, I think something to consider. We all want more housing, we all want affordability, and I believe that this is one of the best ways to kind of hit on all those aspects and try and provide something new. Santa Cruz is changing, it's kind of wild to see all the development going on downtown, and I am all for it. I think Santa Cruz is moving in a very unique place, and so I just wanted to say I am in favor of the project, and I support it. But that was all. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Rachel Murphy, and I own the bar across the street. And I am absolutely so excited for this. I have been waiting for this project for years, and I hope to see you all. Sorry, I'm very excited about this. I have been waiting, because I can't even tell you what the last few years have been like for us. It has been, and is still at this moment, kind of like a literal nightmare. What the stuff that we deal with on a daily basis, just with what's going on in the area, is just, it's heart-wrenching, and it's impacting my business extremely. Like, just between having to keep my gates locked, and we can't keep anything outside, and we're constantly having to pick up stuff that isn't ours, that's dangerous and contaminated, and having to deal with locking our bathrooms, and dealing with selling nothing but $3 beer. That's taxing when we're going up in rent every year and minimum wage every year. And my employees, well, tipped well, good for them, happy. It's not sustaining us as a business. So we need this to come. We need those people to come. And I want to open a restaurant. And I think that that would be a perfect spot to do so. That has been my goal before I move out of this country. I'm gonna stay for a little bit longer while you build this. But please, time is of the essence for us that are trying to stay above the water line. And it would be nice if we could all just say yes to everything. I understand that we can't, but for our sake, maybe a little faster, maybe a little quicker, just, we all want to say yes, right? Yes day. But thank you for your time, and I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing to make this happen for us, and it will change everything in our community. It really will. It starts with us, and it starts there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Elaine Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Santa Cruz County. And it's good to be here this evening, so thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of this project that Housing Santa Cruz County fully supports. This project represents so much more of what Santa Cruz County needs. We know that housing is not just about buildings, it's about people. It's about ensuring that teachers, healthcare workers, service industry employees, and families who call Santa Cruz home can continue to live here, contribute to our local economy, and strengthen the fabric of our community. This project is an opportunity for us to take real steps toward meeting our housing goals. It aligns with our shared vision of a more inclusive, sustainable, and vibrant Santa Cruz. By approving it, we're saying that we value the people who make our city what it is. So this evening, I'd like to invite you to move this project forward, not just for the numbers, but for the future of our community. Let's do what we can to ensure that Santa Cruz remains a place where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Brian Shields. I'm the organizer for Santa Cruz County, Santa Cruz City, and Monterey County. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here. You know, I think it's really important on a project this size that it secures the working class into our area, right? As much as we want to provide affordable housing, the people that are using affordable housing, that are using this type of housing, right, are typically people that are in blue-collar jobs, working people. And so, you know, what we find is on a job site, when it goes non-union, the worker that's building that can't even afford to live there afterwards, you know? And it's important to secure Santa Cruz residents who live here, spend their money here, like you've heard before, our spot in Santa Cruz City, you know? Because, I mean, it continues to grow, it continues to change, it continues to do all this, but there hasn't been a real step forward in providing that opportunity for working class folks, you know. The apprenticeship did everything for me. Before I was in the apprenticeship, I built multi-million-dollar mansions in Marin County. I was paid $18 an hour, you know, and that was not a great living, I'll tell you that. I got into the apprenticeship and I started building bridges and wharfs, docks, piers as a pile driver. We're part of the Carpenters Union. And then I got the opportunity, you know, to move here with my wife. She's from Santa Cruz. It's incredibly important to our family that Santa Cruz City, you know, still holds the values of working class people in mind when they're building like this. And I completely agree. Ocean Street, it is the gateway to Santa Cruz, and this will be a wonderful project for that. It's just important that working class folks are not forgotten during that process. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Charlie Wilcox. I'm one of the proprietors of Marianne's Ice Cream, a soon-to-be neighbor of this project, it seems like. I'd like to say that we have some trepidation about projects of such scale and being next to us. You know, we're kind of a little mom and pop shop, right? But at the end of the day, when we look at what is being proposed, we feel like it's actually probably for the overall benefit of the community. We have our own concerns, and we ask the council to take those into consideration given our 78 years of history on the corner of Hubbard and Ocean. One of the most important of those is actually the traffic at the corner of Hubbard and Ocean. We ask that that not change. It's specifically very important to how we make our livings, how our 100 employees here in Santa Cruz County make their livings, that we continue to be able to do that. It's a vital aspect of our existence. We do welcome ultimately the fact that there are people who want to live here, and we want to give them an affordable place to live, and we would like to have places that are affordable for the folks who work for us, blue-collar folks who work with us to make our experience a great experience. So ultimately, we want to express that we are in support of this with some conditions. And I have to say that the proposers of this project have been very helpful in working with us and hearing what we are concerned about, providing us the access, the visual view shed, if you will, and really respecting the history that we provide. So thank you for your attention, and please don't change our access. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Eric Putzler. I'm a carpenter at Local 646, Monterey, Santa Cruz counties. I just want to touch on the point that I'm really impressed that they're going to provide so much parking. Like, that's unheard of. Really, like, that's parking enough for all the residents and people to go and patronize the shops. That's amazing. Also, bicycle parking and a thoroughfare. Like, oh, this sounds amazing to me. I suggest, and you guys approve this project. And by the way, as a carpenter, I know that we can build that easily enough. I work here in Santa Cruz. I've worked here for several years. I'm in the public works, building libraries, the schools, out in Watsonville Police Station. Like, I'm here, right? I would love to work on this type of project, because wow, that's a lot of work, a lot of wood framing, a lot of concrete. We do all that stuff. Not to mention sheetrock insulation. We can provide all that labor. All we need is to have a signatory general contractor. But beyond all that, I highly suggest you guys approve this project because, again, with Ocean Street, man, it's the truth. It's the truth. I've had to spend late nights and I go down to the donut shop on Ocean, and it's highly uncomfortable. I would like to see some kind of change. It'd be nice, but by the way, approve it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will close the public comment period and we will return to the commission. To my fellow commissioners, any comments?
I just have a request.
Commissioner Dan.
It's administrative. I can't access my email, so I can't see the Grant Street Park COAs, if that was sent to us.
There were some late conditions of approval sent to. I'm not sure if any of that impacts it, but, or later on.
I can motor over to the office and get some if you don't do anything while I'm in
Yeah,
transit.
I mean, were they, I just can't see them.
I was
So I
just going to
can't see
mention
what-
that I forgot to, during my presentation, I meant to say that we have some revised conditions that were sent out. I can bring up the revised conditions here without a problem.
That would also be
I don't know if it
fine.
has any of the, are you referring to the letter from the Grant
So-
Street Park?
Yeah, I'd like to see the revised COAs, and then I don't have access to the Grant Street Park neighbors said they had some suggested additions, and I'd just like to be able to see them. I haven't seen them.
That's what I was going to, those are in their letter, but they're not incorporated
and
into
I
here.
can't-
So,
I
but
can't
I
get to
could
my email
probably
for some reason.
find the letter too. So I can bring that up too, if you just give me a second.
Okay, sorry, so you,
I can share with
okay,
the,
or
with
you,
the
I
vice
can look
chair
at
as well.
somebody else, thank you.
There you go. This is the revised conditions.
Oh, okay, well, he's
so-
gonna bring those up. I
Yes.
just don't have
Yes.
the Grant Street, email from whichever she saw. Are these all the, so you can go to other
Yeah,
commissioners.
I was going to suggest while this is being resolved, are there any other commissioners? Commissioner Gordon.
I'd love to hear from Matt about circulation and just explaining to us and the community about the city's input on entering into this. I mean, I think we can all agree that ocean is complicated. And so I think it would be great to hear from you about how we worked through that.
Yeah, happy to do it. Good evening. My name is Matt Starkey. I'm the Transportation Manager in the Public Works Department.
And part of our involvement in this project has been reviewing the traffic impact study that's required for developments of this size. Interestingly, largely, we found in the traffic study that under the existing conditions, so traffic volumes that exist today on the roadways, when you add on the volume from this new development, we did not see significant impacts around city roadways. So I'm not concerned about major transportation impacts at large from this project and the immediate development of this work. The site access, there were some good questions about that. Some of the key parts of that is on Ocean Street. The access to the site is going to be a right turn in, right turn out only driveways. So people on Ocean Street coming from Highway 17 will not be allowed to take a left turn across into the site. We feel like that was a critical safety consideration to access the building, particularly with the note that most of the driveway access is coming from Ocean Street. Another piece that we reviewed closely was the driveway that goes down into the basement parking area. We found that there was, in the study, that there was sufficient room for cars to queue there and not block the sidewalk and go down. So I think overall, we feel pretty good about how the site access is going to work for this development.
Okay, thank you. So I'm coming off of 17, home from work, and I need to get to the building, and I live on the Ocean Street side. Am I taking a U-turn at Water?
Yep.
Okay, and then taking a right into the driveway there? Okay.
Any other comments? Commissioner Dan.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Commissioner Thompson.
Well, I don't actually have anything detailed to say about it because I think the presentation was very complete. And so the thoughts that came to mind is that I think the design does a very good job of having one character on May Street and another character on Ocean Street. And I think that's very respectful of the existing neighborhood, and but also gives us some splash on Ocean Street, an architectural expression as you come into town that's actually worth remembering. The last comment is actually one of my favorite parts, is the fact that Marianne's Ice Cream is still there on the corner untouched. And I think that is something to keep in mind as we try and create a city going into the future, that it's okay to have things kind of mixed up, that you can have a 21st century building and next to it is a place that, well, I can remember it for as long as it's been there. But I like ice cream. I think that the kind of the usual things that we worry about are really well handled in this project. And one of the things that I heard from the applicant's presentation was that there was a real good give and take with the planning staff, that the project evolved because there were comments made and taken seriously. And I think that from what I understood from the presentation was that it ended up being a better project. I think the Paseo, the mid-block open space is appropriately scaled and something that the people who live there will really enjoy, but it also makes Ocean Street more interesting. You drive by and want to know what's going on in there. So anyway, hats off to that, but I'm sure there are some other comments as well. So.
Commissioner Dan.
Yeah, I actually had a question for the project developer, if they wouldn't mind coming up. And first of all, thank you so much for that excellent presentation. It was really, really, really good.
Great, thank you.
So we've seen a lot of projects come before us, high density, more dense than yours, that have no parking whatsoever. So can you tell us why you have decided to add the parking in? What was the rationale behind that? It's welcome. I just wanted to hear what the rationale was.
Yeah, I can't necessarily speak for all the other projects, but I think one thing that's probably different about our site from some of those other ones is we are a 4-acre site. And because have more horizontal space, we're able to build more parking. I think a lot of the other projects I've seen in town have been taller, maybe 7 or 8 stories projects that have been proposed recently. So your footprint per, unit area above is smaller. So I think that's one thing about our site that's actually allowed us to provide more parking. And also we don't have the same density that's allowed as some of those other sites, which is part of the reason why our site isn't as tall.
But you could have chosen not to have parking and added more units.
That's
so
correct.
What was the determination
I think we could have gone for more units. That's right, under the FDU. But from a marketability perspective, we felt that having roughly 1 space per unit was important. Particularly
it's easier to rent when you have a parking space attached to
correct.
the unit.
And one thing we didn't clarify, and Ryan may have mentioned in his presentation, but the parking is going to be unbundled. So if you don't want a space, you don't have to rent one. But if you do want a space, you can. Perfect. And if you want to rent 2 spaces and there's some available, you could also rent 2. But the way the prioritization normally works is that we make sure everyone at least gets access to 1 space if they want it. And then the leftovers, the remaining spaces can be leased by others.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. It's really helpful. And congratulations on designing a good project. So yeah, that's that. Thank you. That's
Thank
all
you.
I have
Thank
for you.
BD as well.
I just wanted to make a couple comments. I agree with everything that Commissioner Thompson said. And I also think Elaine Johnson said it right when she said buildings aren't about buildings, but they're about people, the people who are going to live in them. And I think that this project really was thinking about the people that was going to live in the building. What I think is right about this project, and this is kind of in comparison to some of the other projects we've had coming through, not the one 2 weeks ago, but other ones. This project provides parking, so the neighborhood is not going to be impacted. The townhome style on May Street is really trying to integrate to the community. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. You didn't max out the height. Wow, that's amazing. And you thoughtfully, stepped up the stories and have some architectural design on your corners. That makes a huge difference. Instead of having like 1 square block, which we've had some come through like that we have no ability to say, please redesign it. You didn't do that, so thank you. Amenities, outdoor space, barbecue areas. Also, like Matt said, meeting with the neighbors. I think that's the way to do things. You talk through things, you make adjustments when you can. That's great. So I'm in support of this project. I think it's well designed, especially in light of what we've seen come through lately. So thank you.
Wonderful. If there's no other comments from commissioners, I'd like to,
Well,
Commissioner
mine was
Gordon.
just so basic about parking. I did want to,
You didn't get a fair shake.
Well,
Go ahead.
no, I just did want to address the developers. I work in this industry and am on the planning commission, and it was a very thoughtful project, like great design, and talking about sustainability, and really thinking through this project. You don't live in this community. I know there's a lot of sensitivity around you not being a developer in this community, but I feel like the sensitivity around this project, even though it's not a locally done project, was done more thoughtfully than a lot of the local developers we see. So I really do want to thank you for that. And I am in support of it. I think it's hard to see change in our community to this degree. And it will be a big change, but it's going to be a welcome one. So I just want to thank you for working with the city and for the planning department to really encourage them to do the right project for us. So thank you to staff as well.
Wonderful. Really quickly, I just wanted to make a couple comments. I don't really have any questions. I would echo the comments of my colleagues. This is a very in my eyes, a very thoughtful project. A lot of thought went into this and a lot of good thought. And the site layout, the design choices, things like that, I think are great. The parking is adequate. And I think that this is going to do a lot for this neighborhood. And I think that the trade-offs that were made from the original design are intelligent. Shifting the height, I think, from May over into Ocean makes a lot of sense and does incorporate a lot of the needs and sort of alleviate some of the fears of the residents in that adjacent neighborhood, which is predominantly single-family homes. So I wanted to thank the developer for really putting a lot of thought into this and doing a really good job. This is a great project. I also just wanted to quickly address some of the concerns of Grant Park neighbors and tenants of 908 Ocean. I can't think of a better way to address some of those problems than to have more people in that neighborhood, right? To run through it, to use the park, and to ultimately stop some of the more, I guess perhaps antisocial behaviors that you might see in that type of neighborhood. One of the ways you do that is you get people going to that park, right? And you get people in that neighborhood doing those things. So I think that this will actually improve upon that situation. And I'm ready to support this project, and I think we're pretty much there. I also just want to quickly mention that I had a former student come up and address me on the planning commission, and I'm a government teacher, so that like made my year. So you know who you are. Thank you. Couldn't be more proud of you. Good job, buddy. Okay. I think we may be ready for a motion, or if there's anything else that you'd like to.
I think that Mr. Bain here was going to put up the revised conditions.
Oh, correct, right.
I don't think we can find the specific letter that you were asking for. Yeah, I couldn't either. Is that okay?
Here, not here. But yeah, just to give you a background. So yeah, we went through the conditions, with the applicants, and they really requested some revisions, pretty minor for the most part. Additionally, having talked with some of the tenants at the site and the relocation plan, we wanted to make sure that we had some assurances for them. So we added some conditions specific to that to make sure that there's some requirements in terms of making sure that all of the requirements are implemented as part of the relocation plan in terms of relocation assistance. So we added some conditions regarding that. Additionally, the applicants, I know, we're working with the Mary Ann's ownership. And so they've requested to add a condition of approval, which
I think you passed it.
yeah, regarding the trash enclosure. Because my understanding anyway is, correct me if I'm wrong, is Mary Ann's doesn't currently have a trash enclosure on their site. They've been using site behind for trash enclosure. And so the developers have offered to basically maintain a trash enclosure there for them to continue to use. And so that's documented here with this condition number 69.
Just to get an idea of the width of that little area, what's the setback on that side from Mary Ann's with that trash enclosure? Because I remember seeing it in the renderings and just being like, wow, they can get a trash enclosure in there? Like, that's great. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but a ballpark is good.
I don't know. I have the plan. 20 feet?
20 feet? Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, a question from Commissioner Gordon.
I actually have a question about the trash enclosure. Currently, Mary Ann's does not have a trash enclosure, and we're taking this opportunity to provide them one. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I can address that.
Okay. Well, is that okay if he addresses it?
It's okay by me.
Okay.
Thank you for opening your West Side location.
What we
too,
do
by the way.
currently, yeah. We currently lease some space from our neighbor in order to provide where our dumpster is picked up by the city. And it's, because it's been such a long-standing agreement, it's not an enclosure as such. So this would actually give us the opportunity to come into compliance with current regulation. And the developer has agreed to help us with that and provide us with a long-standing access to that throughout the future. So it brings us into a much better situation.
Yeah, so I just want to, I know we've been praising the developer, but that's an expensive endeavor. and it's required. And they didn't have to do that necessarily, but it is the right thing to do when you're mixing these uses and having an appropriate trash enclosure that deals with the things that come along, particularly with dairy and all the things. So it's amazing that that's happening, and I just want to say thank you for doing that as well, because that's a lot of money.
There are folks that I've heard call them trash palaces.
Okay, we will entertain a motion.
I'm ready to make a motion to approve the project as submitted by the staff.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to go with the staff, or approve the staff recommendation, which is both the certification of the EIR and also the variety. Can we put the staff recommendation back up there just so we can get a real clear look of exactly what we're doing here and keep those conditions up there too? This is what happens to me at work when I have my 87 tabs up.
Sorry about that, yeah. Here we go. It's right.
There it is, wonderful. Okay, so we have a motion to certify the final environmental impact report and improve the permits that you see.
Trying to make it nice for you, and I.
That's okay.
There you go.
Thank you. That you see right there.
There we go.
As well as the conditions of approval in Exhibit A. I would like to make one small friendly amendment to condition number 25 that just says that, I believe it's still 25 unless that the numbering has changed, that just says that final colors are going to be approved by the zoning administrator. I'd just like to add materials to that as well, so colors and materials. I think we did that in some of the projects in the past, and I think that's smart to do.
Accepted.
Accepted.
Okay, wonderful. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
And Chair Paul Hamus?
Yes. The motion passes unanimously, and that concludes item number 2 on tonight's agenda. For those of you that are going to stay, the meeting will probably be over fairly quickly, but if you're going to leave, let's do that now, and we will, because we still have a meeting that is happening. So thank you all for coming out tonight.
I was looking down, okay.
Was a little unexpected. They called you, or?
I get that they want project labor agreement.
Thanks. And some people use it, that's fine, but I guess I just,
It's really the developer's choice.
but also they didn't. Some of the correspondence, right?
Just a reminder, folks, the meeting is still in session, so if we could have those conversations outside, that would be wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Okay, information items.
Yeah, so I just have a few announcements, but I think that a lot of these are the same as what you heard at the last meeting. 313 Swift, that's going to City Council on February 25th. And then we have early consideration of a project at 831 Elmar. That's coming before you on March 20th. And then we have a project at 530 Ocean that's going to ZA on, the zoning administrator, I should say, on March 5th.
Oh, wait.
That's a 225-unit project with FDUs and apartments. And then
Is that the 6th or the 5th?
I have March 5th down. Is that the wrong date? Yeah, March 5th.
That's a Wednesday.
ZA. That's going to the zoning administrator.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's going to the ZA. Got it,
Yeah.
got it. Okay, sorry about that.
Just an FYI. Yeah. 530 Ocean. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what was the first address on the Almar project?
831 Elmar.
831. That should be easy to remember. Come on. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You've heard that one before.
Come on. All right.
And then 901 Pacific is a new mixed-use project downtown. There was a community meeting scheduled for February 27th. That's going to be rescheduled, so we'll be posting the new date for that when that's determined.
Yeah, it's
And
like that's next to Zacharias.
Is that assembly of lots or just that one?
it's 2 lots. And then 422 and 430 Meter Street is a pre-application for a 97 townhouse project. That one is scheduled for a community meeting on March 10th.
What's the cross street?
Meter and, do you know what the cross street is?
Hello, Commissioners. Lee Butler, the Planning Director. That is just across, it's actually just on the west side of the project that you designed,
So,
Commissioner Thompson.
on the
So-
north of the cemetery?
North of the cemetery, east of Western, and west of University Terrace Park.
Okay, and what's, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
What's the date of the hearing?
March 10th,
March 10th.
How many units is it?
97,
Just townhomes?
just townhomes.
So they don't get the high-density projects up there? That's the way it goes.
It's a pre-application, so that number could change.
Good luck.
And then I'll turn it over to Director Butler for advanced planning updates.
Thanks. I just wanted to remind the commissioners and the community that the environmental impact report for the downtown plan expansion is circulating right now. That's the draft EIR. Tomorrow is the final day to provide those, the comments, 5 p.m. on Friday, the 21st. And subsequent to that, we will be reviewing those comments, preparing responses for them, and we expect to be back in front of the Planning Commission with that in 2 or 3 months, and same, roughly a month later in front of the City Council, assuming everything goes smoothly. If any of you have questions about the plan, the draft plan, or the EIR, they're posted online. We're happy to talk through those with you if there's anything that you would like to discuss.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry. No subcommittee or advisory body oral reports that I'm aware of. No items referred to a future agenda. Thus, we will adjourn the meeting. We'll do it once more because I didn't do it at the beginning. There we go. Pretty cool.